academic and professional interests are focused on livelihood, microfinance, self-help group, and gender development. She has a PhD in gender studies from the very prestigious SNDT Women's University, Mumbai, and holds an MBA degree from JBIMS, Mumbai. Basically, her research, teaching, and advisory is her passion. Her research papers have been published in various peer-reviewed international journals. She has been key resource speaker in various gender-sensitive awareness workshops and conferences. She has also closely worked with Mahila Arthik Vikas Mahamandal, which is a government state-level nodal agency in rural Maharashtra on financial inclusion, empowerment, and gender transformation mechanisms. Her academic expertise was sought by Center for Education and Research for Indian and Asian Studies, Canada, for a transgender project in India. Some of the corporate and NGO projects include assessing the political spaces for women leaders in local self-governance, study of the menstrual health and hygiene, which is very important for girls, among adolescent girls in urban slums. They need assessment of joint liability group of women borrowers for a South African bank, followed by oral narrative method to analyze the professional struggles of women development workers in rural and tribal areas, advocacy research study to assess the legal rights and maintenance provisions for women in marital discord, and even assessing the sexual rights and assessing the work of pioneers in 20th century, and monitoring and evaluating programs working on empowering adolescent girls. So before making a transition to research in women's studies, she has spent around 13 years in the banking sector and has even worked with some of the major multinational banks like HSBC, Barclays, and First Rand Bank in reviewing their business process and setting alternative delivery challenges. So today it is indeed an honor to welcome Dr. Sangeeta Desai-Mann, who will be enlightening all of us on the topic entitled Feminist Methods Using Theory, Methodologies, and Building Conceptual Models. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Madhurima Dasgupta, for this warm welcome and a long introduction. I'm really honored to be part of this session where I know some of the stalwarts like Vibhuti ma'am has already spoken. So it's really a great honor. Today, what I'll be discussing more is definitely on the theory frameworks, but it's also about discussing my field experiences, both as a researcher and as an academician, and my previous background as when I was on the other side of the research. So I always start my session by expressing my gratitude. First, the gratitude is towards my professor, who after Dr. Professor Veena Purnacha, madam, who is the ex-director of the Research Center for Women's Studies at SNDT University. And SNDT University was a place where I did my PhD after a long career in banking. So whatever I have learned and whatever I'm going to talk today is not just as an academician where I have learned the theories from Professor Veena Purnacha, but also I have seen her in the field as a researcher, all the practicing all the feminist methods that one learns in the theories, she already has put it into practice. So there is a lot to learn as a practitioner as much as it is to learn as an academician. So my gratitude towards my professor. Second is my gratitude towards all my fellow respondents, research respondents, be it a tribal woman, be it a rural person, be it urban adolescent girls, or be it the government officials and the government program officers with who were the respondents or who were part of the study where we co-created knowledge. Knowledge is something which is not the authority or hierarchy or way, but it has to be co-created, and that is what feminist methods is all about. So I express my gratitude because I went there as a researcher, but I think I got more enriched as a person, and that is what feminist research method is. And thirdly, all the great scholars, be it Nancy Hardings or Shulamit Reinhardt, who has created a repository of the methods of feminist methods and how it is different and how they have critiqued the traditional social sciences. methods, and what is, how and why is it different, and how is it useful in practice. So few of the it's going to be a mixture of some theories, but also about a paper or some of the projects that I have that we have developed, and how have these papers or papers that have used feminist methods, and how are we going to link something like a theoretical framework, how are we going to link this methodology and then build a conceptual model for research. So today I'll be talking about kernel theory of also an empowerment framework, the capability approach, and then see this context of research, methodology, and findings, how all of them actually link up. And most of us have realized we are great we are great academicians, we are great researchers, but when it comes to writing and putting it into a paper and developing into a theory, it's somewhere probably we fall short of. So, how do we overcome that as a researcher? How do we also ensure that our research, which is rich in data, is also converted into a concept which will help the future generation in their in their journey of research. So, I'm going to share my presentation. I hope I have given the right to share my PPT. I'll just just tell me if one second.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible, but not the first. Yes,
No,
now
not
it's
the full screen. Not the full screen. Okay, let me see. Is it visible now?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so today's presentation, as I said, it's about feminist research methods, theory, methodology, and how do you use that for building a conceptual model. So, wait, just let me know if the screen is going ahead, huh? Because
Sure, ma'am.
now is it showing guiding principles of
Yes,
feminist?
yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. So as I said in the previously as to what is the distinction, is there a something different as a feminist method at all? And if it is, how different it is? So here I have borrowed from the Shula Myth Reinhardt's feminist methods. She is in her seminal book. Whoever wants to now read it, you can go and her seminal book is on feminist research methods. So what is she talking about? And how is it, as I said, how is it different from the social sciences? So is there a different tool or technique? And the answer is both yes and no. Why is it yes and no? Because uh, your ethnography study or your narrative analysis or your discourse analysis or your interviews or your participant observation, your surveys, your questionnaires, your focus group discussions, all of these are the tools that anyway social sciences also use, and also women's studies and gender studies also use. So are we talking that there are different tools? The answer is no. We are not talking that there are going to be different tools. So what is and how is it different? What we are saying is feminist research methods, methodology is different. That means the purpose is different. The guiding principles are different. And these are some of the, and I'm going to explain each of them. Here we are talking about research. Researchers' personal experience is also a valuable source of insight. And what does social science teach us? The Cartesian framework tells us that you have to keep aside your personal views. You have to keep aside your, there should not be passion. You should be very objective about it. So here feminist researchers recognize that there is positionality, there is reflexivity. We acknowledge that all research is shaped by the researcher's local position. So we are acknowledging that there will be the researcher himself or herself will be locating in the study. Second is the research is for empowerment. It is not about detachment. What do we understand by that? The goal is empowering your participants. It is the we are collapsing the power hierarchies. Normally, when you ask somebody questions, the person is in power and the person who is responding to you. And but here and that itself creates power hierarchies. But here the goal is empowering, not detachment. So for whom are we empowering? We are empowering the participants. How and why? Because many of these women or girls have been silenced for very long. Their stories have never come out. Even if you look at history textbooks, it's all about wars. It's about the kings. It's about the kingsmen. It's about how the war was fought, where it was fought, how many people were there, how many people got killed. But the other story, so there is always another story about women who were left behind, about children who were left behind, about people who were marginalized, people who women who were raped or women who were widowed. Those stories never come. So here it is about also talking about or giving a chance to the participants who are otherwise silenced. Third is that there are multiple methods, and it can be quantitative, it can be qualitative, but also there is a methodical pluralism. So, what we are talking as a methodical pluralism is that there is no single method which is inherently feminist. Both, we are saying that both quantitative and qualitative methods can be used in feminist ways, depending on what is the purpose, what is the ethics, purpose and ethics of this. So purpose is as important as your the tool that you are going to use. So purpose is an equally important driver, we can say, in your research. Collapsing the power hierarchies, which we already said that, and I'm going to give you an example of how do you collapse the power hierarchies. And the approach is a collaborative approach. Here, it's not that I as a researcher, I'm creating something, I'm writing a paper, so I'm creating knowledge. No, the knowledge or the findings that come, it's a collaborative. The participant is as important. It's she who's actually helping you to create that knowledge that is created. So they are also, we can say, a co-creators in the process. uh, Importance of emotions and valuing subjectivity along with objectivity. So when we are saying that we value subjectivity, it doesn't mean that objectivity is thrown out of the door. It says that because in social sciences we say that you have to be very objective, and you keep aside your emotions. In feminist methods we say that you value that subjectivity. It's as important as objectivity, or don't negate the importance of emotions. So see, these are some of the guiding principles. Because why emotions are important? Because they are part of the human experience. They are a source of knowledge. And in the next slide also, we are going to see some of the principles. Uh, is the slide moving? Are you able to see the next slide? The feminist research differs from the conventional social science. Is that slide visible? Can somebody tell me if
Yes,
this
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It's
the
visible.
it's the slide is visible, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Now, most important is that feminist research works towards social change. That means we are not doing a research for the sake of doing research. It is about bringing in social change. Social change could be in terms of the practices, could be in terms of challenging the social customs. it could be about a policy direction that is given to the government, or it could be in process of a law that has been changed. And I'm going to tell how that happens. So feminist research refers so towards social change. The objective itself is bringing social change. So when we talk about uh, you know domestic violence, for example. Now, domestic violence victims. Now, the idea of collecting the doing a research on them is to bring about certain change. So, the Domestic Violence Act in India was formed after a lot of uh, cases that were coming up in newspapers and all, but also when a research what happens to the victims, how are physical abuse, emotional abuse, mental abuse, uh, and after that the act came where it says that financial abuse is also emotional abuse. It's not just the physical abuse, but the Domestic Violence Act says that all these kinds of abuses are also can be has to be clubbed in the Domestic Violence Act. So when what we are talking is that it the towards social change aspect means that we are trying to change something, as I said, either from the perspective of making different laws, or it could be in terms of changing certain policies. I'm going to talk about a little about, because I need to give examples for this. uh, there was this Mahila Arthik Vikas Mahamandal. We were doing a state project for them, and the idea was that what was found is that women never had any assets in their names. It is same across most of the countries, but South Asian countries, and especially in India also, the concern was that the assets, the properties, were never in the name of women. They were always in the name of a man. Now, the government had this Mahila Arthik Vikas Mahamandal, where they were about initiating self-help groups for women. Now, one idea is to increase their financial independence by opening bank accounts, giving them financial help, linking them into groups, and then by linking them into groups, give them access to knowledge, trainings, help them to start their own business, talk about gender rights, talk about laws and stuff. So that is one part. But what important part was felt was, uh, what do you do to change the assets position? And then they said that let's first find out how many assets are there in the name of women, and it was found that there are no assets. The houses also that they stay, especially in rural areas, they were not, because it's the patriarchal way of thinking. Why should a woman have property in their name? So in order to challenge that, they started this process. So this was a participation action research kind of a program, where they said that okay, we will felicitate every man who adds his wife's name in the house. So you're not entirely transferring the property to the woman, but what you are doing is you are adding her name. So that sense of security is there. And that I would say is working towards social, because you are, by felicitating the man, you are actually changing certain social customs which have been there for many years. So this kind of we say that this social change is one of the aspects. Second is it's guided by feminist theory, and feminist theory, that means you are talking about power, gender, oppression, which shapes the questions and methods used. Uh, this also focuses on women's experiences, her voices, her perspectives, and which we have already covered. It strives for empowerment because it aims to give participants how lives are lived, how it is represented, and that value is important, that knowledge is important. It also talks about diversity because it rejects the idea of a universal experience. Now, normally, the women are categorized as a homogeneous group, and feminist research says that we are talking about diversity. We do not conform to the idea that there is one universal experience. For example, when Urvashi Bhattalia talks about partition, there is a single narrative of partition, which is of violence, of bloodshed, uh, and people losing their properties, losing everything when both the sides of partition, India and Pakistan partition was it. But Urvashi Butalia, when her feminist research work on partition, you can read some of her uh, books. She gives a different angle to it, and if you look at the movie, there is also a movie on partition on Pinjar, where women who were taken to the other side of the border, they also don't didn't want to come back, probably because they had children now in their new families and they did not want to. So all people, all women and men and children who were safe. So that kind of stories are not reflected in the main discourse of social sciences. So there is a diversity. So it rejects the idea of a universal uh, experiences. And also, when emotion and experience is considered as a legitimate source of knowledge. So this is how all of it differs from the social sciences. And also there is a link to personal is political. So the concept is that my problems are individual problems are not are not limited to individual. They are larger, they are impacting the society, and it is political, and through the political change we can pressure we can bring in certain change. So these are the some of the aspects of feminist research and how it differs from convention. Now I'm going to discuss more about the projects on the field. One as there are many projects that we have completed, but which are the research projects which exclusively used feminist research methods? And I'm going to discuss. There are many, but I'll be discussing maybe if we time permits, then one or two. It depends on how much time we have. Uh, Dr. Madhurima, how much time do we really have? Because then I'll pace my presentation accordingly.
Yes, ma'am, you have time. There is time. I think.
Do we have till 11:30?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Surely, surely, ma'am.
Okay, okay, great. So these five projects. One was this was a government project. I also have my research organization called Inclusive Horizon. So apart from being an academician, which I teach, as Dr. Madhurima mentioned, that I'm also a researcher. I have an organization where we take up projects for government as well as no NGOs, as well as for private banks, and because I have been a banker. So what are some of the research projects that we did? One was the MAVE, Mahila Arthik Vikas Mahamandal. It was about empowerment of development workers. Now, these women development workers, we wanted to study, they go from village to village, uh, empowering, organizing, mobilizing women to form into SHG groups. So, what has been their personal and professional journey, and how does this fit into the empowerment framework? And what are the policy changes that one can do for these development workers? And how has their lives changed after getting into the state project? So, this was one of the uh, projects. Second was the experience of first-time women borrowers. Now, these are customers of a private bank, and here I'm going to give you an example. When we talk about power hierarchies, now, as first-time women borrowers, when they came as a research participants, because we wanted to study what kind of financial products should be designed, and for that we did a research on them. We wanted to find out what are their needs, whether the money which they are going to use, or is it going to be used for consumption purpose, whether it is going to be used for production purpose, and the bank wanted to design a financial product, especially for these micro entrepreneurs. Now, the mandate, as I said, for the bank was very clear. They just wanted a financial product to be designed. Uh, but as a researcher, as a feminist researcher, I wanted to design. I wanted the gap. Whatever we have been taught in the classrooms, and also what I have seen in the fields. I wanted to break that barrier. Because the moment the women walked into the banks, there was this power hierarchy which was already established, because they were going to say exactly what you wanted, the bank wanted to hear. And as a researcher, I said, no, we are going to go to their comfort zones, which is there where they are located, and there we are going to uh, ask questions to them. And that made a lot of difference, because here they were talking about, yes, I'm going to start a small business, I'm going to take a tailoring machine, I'm going to expand my business, and I'm going to start a tiffin service. But when we went to their homes, we found that more than 70% of the money that they were going to get, or they had the first tranche which they had already got, it was more for spending on their children's education or school fees or tuition fees. And June was the month when they needed the maximum amount of money, and that's why the loan amount uh, was taken in the month of June, because um, the school starts during that point of that period. So what here I'm trying to say is that where you are conducting your research, is the idea only about collecting information, collecting data, building a financial product, or the idea is also as a researcher, being reflexive, that there is a power dynamics involved out over here, and the comfort zones of your participant, they are equal part, they have equal right in the process, and you shouldn't compel them to say something which you want to hear. So this is how you can utilize your knowledge in actual field. The third, and I'm going to today's discussion, I'm going to largely focus on the menstrual hygiene of adolescent girls in urban slums. This was a project which was given by an NGO. They wanted, and I'll talk about that NGO, but this was a project where we wanted to document, or rather we would say visibilize, the issues that adolescent girls in the slum areas face. Now, the policy focus for so long has always been, the policy focus has been on the poor women or the poor girls in rural areas. So the national policies, the national programs were always on that, those kind of, as if there is no problem in urban areas, as if there is no poor people in urban areas. So that is the project, that is the research that I'm going to discuss today, and how we have used, which theory we have used, what methodology we have used, and what were the findings, and how do we link all of that. The fourth is the sacred forest of Kodagu and oral traditions. Now, I'm going to give you a brief of what it was. In the southern region of India, there is a district, Kodagu, in Karnataka, which is a hilly region, mostly tribal. I won't say it's indigenous people, highly educated, but they also worship the forest, and they have certain traditions that are still followed uh, from generations to generations, and they believe that the sacred forest should not be cut, not for even widening the roads, because the goddesses stays there, and they venerate the goddesses, and there are certain rituals to please the goddesses, and there are certain time frames and certain periods where the goddesses are worshipped. So in the middle of the night, the particular day of the night time, but also a particular night of a particular season. And the rituals which they do are not allowed to be seen by an outsider, unless you are yourself a Kodagu resident, then you are allowed. So, and what are the traditions? So the traditions are passed from one generation to another, but they have not been documented. So my professor, in her paper, has talked about this. She has written a paper, and it's published in one of the quarter Q1 journals. It's about environment, gender, and how do we protect all of this. What is the link to it? Fifth is about women micro entrepreneurs' livelihoods in rural Maharashtra. We were studying the goat farming out over there, and goat farming as an entrepreneurship program. How has it impacted small time women entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs when they get a loan, and whether that program is successful? What kind of support systems is required? What kind of integrated frameworks are required? So support from the government, support from veterinary medical associates, research institute also when they are doing goat production. How will you increase the growth production? So it was a complete ecosystem that we had to study to understand whether these women are entrepreneurs, when all then it's not about giving money, it's about if all the ecosystem works, then are they successful? And what kind of actually help or assistance is required apart from money, apart from training, the marketplace, medical supervision, and apart from medical supervision, how will you ensure that the goats are fed right? So the nutrition diet. So it was an entire a community, an integrated framework, we could say, which was studied and as a part of the research process. And I think this paper is also published in one of the journals. And so today's discussion, as I said, was on from stories to structure menstrual hygiene management framework. This is from lived realities in urban India. Um, Here, this is just a picture, but what can you see in this picture? If I have to ask uh, the participant, what do you see in the picture? Are you able to see the slide?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah. What can you? Yeah, can you see?
It's a Mumbai, I think the Queen's necklace that they call it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So this is a queen's necklace, and this is the look, the beautiful look of Mumbai, where we can see a beautiful skyline out over there, and all that when it is lit up, it really looks like a queen's necklace. Um, but that is just a part of it. Here, what do you look? Here, what do you see?
It's a slum.
Yes, correct. You're right. So this is a slum. The reason I have shown both the pictures, one is the city, how it looks, and one is the another, because the context, the next thing which we're talking about is the context. The research context matters. And what is basically the research context gives you a meaning, relevance, and validity, but it also gives you the settings, the circumstances, the conditions of the study. So the picture is actually about inequalities in big cities, where there is a problem of plenty. Which the problem of plenty is that you have an excess of everything, but the problem of plenty coexists with resource crunch. So that means the poor people exist even in cities. So when there are policies and frameworks that are being made, you have to consider everything and not just have a focus of rural focus, which is normally the policy focus. Here, there's a place where lakhs of money is being spent on international boards by rich people, by some people, and there are also people who struggle to provide education to their children. So there are skyscrapers and there are slum dwellers. So the social and cultural background, the historical and the political situation, the institutional and geographical setting, the participants' environment, that is their community, their workplace, their school, is everything is important in a research context, and that's why research context matters so much. Here, I'm talking a little bit about the slums of Mumbai. And because we are talking about menstrual hygiene and health, that was the project. one thing that we have noticed is that in health, those who need the most care, and the most care is required by women and girls who are at, and people who are at the margin, and they are the ones who are left behind when we talk about health. And more than 50% of the population, and this is a very interesting insight, because when I was doing the research, I did not know that 50% of the population is living in slums. And this was a shocker to me. So, as I said, when we talk about reflexivity, in the previous slide, we were talking about reflexivity. Your own assumptions and your own biases have to be acknowledged. And here I'm acknowledging that before I started the study, I did not know that 50% of the population is living in slums. So there are certain assumptions of your own city. I'm from Mumbai, so there are certain assumptions of your own city that you make. So there is a high proportion of, again, migrant population. That means people from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar and Jharkhand, and the states which are these are not Bimaru states, but the states which do not have uh, income generating activities apart from agriculture. They do not have, if they do not have factories and they do not have other income avenues, then most of the people migrate here to the city, because Mumbai city is considered to be city of opportunities. So if you look at the Bollywood people, it sets that it is a dream city where people come here, and the glamorous city where there are opportunities, and anybody can, um, if they work hard, then they can become rich. So that's why there is a high proportion of migrant population. And another shocking thing is that there are only, as per the Praja report, again, this is very contested. However, the Praja report, which is an NGO, they say that there are only, like, for one toilet there are 108 1,820 people. Now, the civil authorities are contesting it, because they are saying there are more toilets. That this number is not true. However, Praja, as an organization, they say that we are talking about functional toilets, uh, and functional toilets. That means just having a mortar and brick structure is not important. Whether it is functional is equally important. So there is a high incidence when you look at the medical records, then there is a high incidence of RTIs, UTIs, urinary tract infections, among girls, and especially in the Mumbai slums, because it is linked to poor menstrual hygiene. Because there are unmet wash needs. Now, it's water and sanitation and hygiene needs which are unmet. People hold on to their to not go to the toilets, because there are no toilets, not no toilets, functional toilets are not there, or it is not accessible to them. And that's why the urinary tract infections are very, very high in the slum areas. So what has been the objective? The organization, the organization we have tied up with, but that objective, there were some three main objectives of this research. We were exploring, it explores and highlights the perspective and lived experiences of adolescent girls coming from low income urban settings. Secondly, it looks at how girls are accessing, how they are understanding, how they are utilizing menstrual resources and knowledge within this within this social cultural limits. Because when you are poor, when you have religious and social uh, you know traditions enforced upon you, then how are you navigating this entire uh, with limited knowledge, with limited resources, with knowledge? How are you actually understanding that phenomena when you are growing up? So that was the second thing. And the third and most important thing was about creation of a menstrual health empowerment model. So as I said, It basically provides the conceptual model, a tool for future research and policy that aims to develop context sensitive framework for MHM. Now, uh, so what is and I'm going to talk a little about the gap, and then I'm going to, you know, take you to the theory part. But the gap, the most important gap that when we were looking at various papers, because in order to study this, uh, we have really looked at all kinds of materials, that be it policy, be it the knowledge, attitude, practice, framework in detail, foreign authors, Indian authors, South Asian authors. And we have looked at what has been covered and what has not been covered, and how is this research going to be different. So whenever we are doing a research, I think the most important is where is the research gap? What are you addressing? What kind of literature have you looked at? And what kind of missing link is it that you're going to provide? But the third important part is that, are you building anything with a conceptual model? Are you helping build a model which then can be used by someone? Because we are always relying on an existing framework, and here also we are relying on existing framework, but beyond that also we have to go and create something. So this research is, we have uh, managed to build something. So the previous studies, as I said, was on knowledge, was on stigma, on taboo, on what material is used. And I don't know, n number of studies as to what material, what absorbent material. Are they using sanitary pads, or they are not using cloth? Now, even WHO and United Nations, when it is talking about menstrual hygiene management, we cannot look down upon people and girls and women and transgenders if they are going to use cloth, because you again have to be context specific, you have to be culture specific. What is the limit? As long as it is hygienic, as long as it is absorbent, as long as it is giving you dignity, all these things, then it doesn't matter what material, what absorbent material you are using, as long as it's hygienic. So the don't have to always practice. That's what the definition is. It is not about practicing modernity. It is about being sensitive and available products which are there, it context specific, culture specific, and then how you're navigating your way through. So if we look at the most of the studies, they are talking that the cloth is bad, and why sanitary pads. No, this study is not about what kind of products are being used. This is about the experiences of women, or of girls, sorry. It's about experiences and how they have navigated the restrictions that have been, and how, and what are the challenges that they face, be it privacy, be it using infrastructure, be it sharing the free pads that you're getting. So that it is about that stories, that the complex realities. Um, so here again, as I said, the focus has been on rural areas, not urban. It is only, and when the policy, when you are analyzing the policy, currently that in India, there is no specific menstrual hygiene policy. The, the Supreme Court, in its order, has told the central government that you have to create a menstrual hygiene policy, national level menstrual hygiene policy. So in 2023, they did come with a draft policy, but it is not final executed. And even this research, through this research, we have given certain recommendations and feedback to the national draft policy that is being made. So the focus of the government programs, when we are looking at, we studied lots of programs that are currently there, but most of them is about absorbent material. It is not on infrastructure, and it definitely doesn't talk about bodily autonomy. So these things are completely silent in the policy or the program frameworks that were there. And most MHM, that is menstrual hygiene management research, is relied on programmatic frameworks. So it lacks theoretical underpinnings. But what do we mean by that? That means, okay, the participants have said XYZ thing. Uh, they fear, there is a shame, there is a fear, and what kind of material is being used, and that's it. But is there a theoretical framework that you are categorizing it into? Then the answer is no. And there have also been lack of clearly defined causal pathways which can link your interventions to outcomes. That means by providing a free pad in the school uh, is a statement made by the participant. But are you linking it to anything? If it is not, then that statement as such is not making sense. So here the gap is also we are reframing as MHM within the broader frameworks of empowerment and social change. So that is something, a gap which this paper through this paper we have tried to fulfill. So as I said, we have used a theoretical framework, but what is a relevant kernel theory? Now, first of all, whether kernel theory, the concept of kernel theory, what it is. So kernel theory is actually used in, what do you say, a pure sciences or in machine learning. But in social sciences, when we refer to as a kernel theory, it refers to a foundational theory, a theory which actually gives you a direction, which informs you, which guides you, which guides the design, which helps you in analysis of your research, and it enhances the rigor and relevance of the research. So if here in this we are talking about the kernel theory that is being used in this paper is Naila Kabir's empowerment theory of resources, agency, and achievement. Why? Because it has informed the design, it has informed the methodology that is being used, and we are going to see how it is informing the design, how it is informing the methodology, how it is directing or guiding the data collection. And this theoretical framework, the kernel theory, as I said, is like a foundational theory. It also helps you to interpret your findings. So if you have collected a large amount of data, a rich data, a qualitative data, where your participants have given you a lot of information about their lived experiences, but how are you going to interpret your findings? So here, by using a theoretical framework, we can use a rich qualitative data to a framework, and that can also be used to guide your findings. So your findings are not left haywire, but there is a methodology of linking them. So, as I said, a kernel theory is normally used for pure sciences, but in social sciences, it helps in designing interventions. So this here it's about intervention. This study was about interventions, the programs. So here it is helping us in designing programs, interventions, models, and it definitely influences the research methodology. So that's why kernel's theory is important. And here in this, we have used Naila Kabir's empowerment theory. Now, for those who know about the empowerment framework, maybe I will not take much time, but it is important to understand what is Naila Kabir talking about. So Naila Kabir is a social scientist and a scholar in feminist research, in gender studies. She's from Bangladesh, but I think right now located in London, where she's published a lot of papers. Her seminal work is on the concept of empowerment framework, because we normally say that empowerment cannot be uh, quantified. Empowerment cannot be classified as something. It's a process, it's a journey. Uh, yes, fair enough. It is a process, it's a journey, but we can have a framework to see in what way are the resources, in what way is the agency, in what way are the outcomes monitored, or whether they can be monitored. Now, empowerment framework can be used anywhere. I mean, it can be for a woman entrepreneur also. It can be for the social entrepreneurs also. It can be wherever there are women, you can, because women are supposed to be the most disempowered, and most of the rural areas, they have used, the research studies have used the empowerment framework of Naila Kabir. Now, the three pillars in this framework are resources, agency, and achievements. So what are resources? And you can see it in the diagram. Uh, if you look at the resources, agency, and outcome, then Naina Kabir says that there are certain resources are like the preconditions to and they can be tangible, they can be intangible, they can be economic, human, social, and cultural. Now, for example, if we are going to measure the education outcomes of girls, so what will be the resource out over here? The resources will be whether there is a school in the first place, in the village or in the city that you're monitoring the education outcomes. So your resource becomes your school. Now, whatever education is being given to the girls, agency is about ability to make decisions, which means if you are given access to resources, you are given a training, then can that individual choose and act to achieve on the outcomes? So if I am a woman entrepreneur, I have access to a bank account. So bank account becomes my resource. I've been given a training on how to start a business, as to this a working capital. Uh, I've been given a loan. That loan also becomes like a resource to me. The training program is also like a resource to me. But the ability to make decisions, the ability whether I'm going to start a business or I'm not going to start a business with that money is my decision. So am I exercising that decision? So agency is about ability to make that decision. So by giving resources, can the individual act? And if I start a business so I've exercised my agency. It's like I've been given the right to vote. There is a ballot box. There is a election booth out over there where I can go and vote. Now, as an individual, am I exercising the right to go and vote? That is my agency. Am I getting influenced by my family in exercising whom to vote? So now here I'm exercising my right to vote, but my family members are making that decision on my behalf. That means I'm getting influenced. So my ability to take decisions has been influenced. So you're understanding what is the difference between the resource, what is the difference between agency, and the third is your outcome or achievement, or your interaction of your resources and agency results in the outcome, the last process. So if I've started a business, have I been able to increase the balance in my bank account? Has my living standard increased? Have I been able to purchase something which I really wanted to purchase? And because of by purchasing that, has my probably in a rural area, I wanted to purchase a mixer. I went and purchased a mixer. I have exercised my agency. But then, am I using that mixer, grinder, whatever, uh, for to ease out my drudgery work? If I purchased a TV or with that resource and agency, I was able to start a business and then I have got money. But with that money, am I going and watching a TV? which I have purchased, but I'm not, the outcome is that I don't get to use only that TV. So, so this is the difference between, this is the framework which Naila Kabir has, these are all the examples which I have given you are examples. The framework is more important, which is what is resource, what is, just to make you understand what is resource, what is an agency, and what is the outcome. Now, how do I link? Most important, I know that this framework is there, but how am I linking this framework to my present study? And that is the question. Hmm. That is the most important. So everybody knows, okay, these are the frameworks, but are we linking those frameworks to our methodologies? So here is the methodology of this study, which was a qualitative, um, interpretive approach. Now, we looked at the conceptual framework. So we are looking at now the qualitative interpretive approach. Now, qualitative methods, as we see, are basically effectively capture the lived realities, and they give the subjective meanings, making them suitable for examining the gender, the socio-cultural, and the emotional aspects. So that's why a qualitative method was used. Now, what is an interpretive approach? What is a uh, and what kind of hermeneutic principles are being used? So interpretive analysis is basically on focusing on understanding the meaning. So how are people making sense of their social worlds? How are they making sense of the actions, of the experiences? So here, when we're talking about interpretive analysis, it's rather than focusing on the hypothesis testing. We are not testing any hypothesis. We are not testing any variables, but it aims to interpret human behavior in that context. So here we are interpreting what the girls are saying in the context that they are staying, be it their school context, be it their family. What has been every person's response has been different. And then we have to draw certain themes out of it. So interpretive um, analysis, which has been used here in this research, is used for basic various qualitative methods. It could be, here we have used in-depth interviews, but it could be in-depth interviews, participant observations, it could be ethnography, narrative analysis, discourse analysis, phenomenological and hermeneutic approaches. So, and I'm also going to touch upon what is the hermeneutic principles a little bit later on. But this study wouldn't have been possible without a partner organization, which was Vacha, which I said was an NGO. And I'm going to just talk about Vacha a little bit because it would be unfair by not giving them credit in the research. So here you see Vacha, Vacha is a charitable trust. And here you see the picture of Sonal Ben, who unfortunately is no more, but she has been the founder of this organization, started in the 1990s, and they are about visibilizing and empowering adolescent girls. So, and the target section is anywhere between 10 to 19 year old girls who are necessarily school going girls, who are necessarily living in urban slums, and they provide them with after school programs where the girls can just come. Uh, it's like their comfort, safe spaces. And here they are given a little bit training on what are gender rights, um, discussing what are the issues at home. So we also find out whether there is abuse happening, not just physical abuse, but also, in terms of food. They're also given a little bit of nutritious food because most of these girls, although they are school going girls, they are anemic. They're found to be anemic. So there are gender fairs which are held for them. And Vacha has been working with adolescent girls on literacy, on gender rights in Mumbai's urban marginalized communities since 1990, and they have almost 17 branches. They are talking, their programs basically include giving life skills. So, tell them about expressing, even the small essays the girls write. So they are expressing through the essays what is their lives been. There is also mentoring that happens. There is community networks. They are also taught photography. So the girls take photographs of their community and also have some exhibition. Recently, there was an exhibition which was there in Mumbai. And Vacha has over the years have impacted over 97,000 individuals and more than 4,30,000 through community intervention programs, school programs. So it is also about um, educational awareness. How do girls stay in school? They don't drop out from schools, because once you drop out from schools, then they are immediately married. So how do you control child marriages also? How do you promote leadership? Because the it is not about somebody else coming and solving the problems for these girls. They want the girls to be empowered so that they themselves take up the issues that they are having and go and solve the problem. So if there is a problem about street lights in their area, then they themselves have to work on it, highlight that problem to the civic authorities. If there is a problem of alcoholism, if there is a problem about eve teasing, or eve teasing is not the right word, but there is a problem about uh, people harassing them, then it is with them that they have to highlight these issues by coming together. So this is about Vacha. The in-depth interviews, there were 70 in-depth interviews that happened. They were open-ended questions. Although we had prepared a questionnaire, but we had kept it open-ended, and I'll tell you how it works. The These were community centers, so as I said, they were safe spaces. They were within their comfort zones. We have also used the hermeneutic principles for data analysis. Now, what is a hermeneutic principles? I'm just going to go back and forth in this slide, so just bear with me. So hermeneutic principles is basically iterating between parts and whole. So once when you look at certain quotes which the girls have said, certain texts which the girls have said, certain interviews which are there, we have to look at the broader context and from which area they are. What has been their social, what has been their religious, cultural background, and then place it. So you iterate between the parts, and the whole is it's a concept, but you iterate to understand the entire social, historical, geographical, economical context. And here it is about contextualizing whatever they are saying in because everything that you say is being shaped by your by all this context, that by environment that you are living in. So for example, there a quote by a girl who said that I don't like only wearing modern clothes, and I think that is right. And I think she said, what did she say? Uh, Nobody has told me not to wear particular type of clothes, but I myself have taken the decision of not to wear jeans and not to wear t-shirts, and I like to wear salwar kameez. Now, when somebody says this sentence, you can't take that sentence as face value, because contextualizing that sentence is very important. Of course, there has been where that person stays. Everybody around that area wears, salwar kameez. The school that she goes, it's a religious school. So nobody is going to accept if she's going to wear uh, clothes that are not suitable for that area. So I myself, when she said, I myself have taken the decision of not wearing, has to be, this sentence has to be looked in a broader context of from where she comes from. So that is, I'm talking about a contextualization. Meaning is co-created, which I've already said, that it is interaction between the researcher and the participant, and you co-create certain knowledge. It is not just the researcher, or it's just not the participant. And when you have multiple interpretations, and what does multiple interpretations mean? For example, there were girls who said that we get free pads in school. Now, if we look at it, then the policy tick mark will be okay. As per the programs, the program is successful because the girls are getting free pads in the school. But when you interpret it's not the free. You have to look at the frequency, whether what kind of sanitary pads. And then the thing was that they don't get it on a every month basis. They get it once in 6 months. So does it solve the problem? The answer is it doesn't solve the problem. But there are multiple interpretation. In spite of getting the pads, the girls are going and buying pads at a commercial rates from the marketplace. Now, why? Because the free pads that you are getting in school, so there are multiple interpretations to it. The free pads that they get in school is also being shared by the mothers, it's also being shared by the sisters who are dropouts from the school, or in which school they don't, in certain schools they don't get free. So that means the sentence or a statement has got multiple interpretations. A, in a way you can look it as it's by getting free pass, yeah, it's been they are influenced. I mean, they are getting exposure to using modern ways of sanitation and hygiene. But the thing is, if it's being shared by other people, that means their own resources are further, that means their agency is again compromised. Other way of looking at it is that these girls, these young girls, are also influencing what the mothers, or they're also influencing what the sisters are using. So in a way, they are influencers. So in a way, they're also exercising their agency. So there are multiple interpretations of a particular data, or multiple interpretations of the answers that you are getting in the field. Questioning the data, most important. It is like you keep on questioning the data. You keep on asking, is the does the statement mean exactly the same thing, or there could be what information we have gathered probably is not. So if we had just said, okay, schools get girls get free pads, or there are vending machines. But going beyond that data, whether the machines are working, whether they are functional, uh, is, is about questioning your data. Vending machines installation, by just saying a tick mark, we are not, as a researcher, we are not then using the hermeneutic principle of questioning the data. So these principles help you to question the data. Abstraction and generalization. So interpretive research, when we are talking about it, links your specific insights from the case to theoretical concepts. So when we are talking about absorbent material or infrastructure, availability of toilets in the community area. Now I'm going to link that availability of toilets to a resource, because I'm linking that concept to a conceptual framework. So this is about hermeneutic principles. Again, we are going back to the community, these transcripts where how the methodology, the transcripts and notes were reviewed, uh, identified, and which helped us in understanding the narratives. The profile, Madhurima, madam, can you just let me know how much more time we have? I'll start wrapping if we, because I think there is question answers also, right?
Yes, ma'am. Around 5, 7 minutes, ma'am.
5, 7 minutes, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, so profile of the, these are, as I said, 16 to 19-year-old girls. They were from different religious background, Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist. Again, 29 from both from open category, backward category, scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. But as I said earlier, they were from migrant population. Uh, Here in Mumbai's suburbs, some of the parents were either rickshaw drivers, they were shopkeepers, drivers, small trades. So a very modest socio-economic and economic gradient, we can say, within the sample. The mothers were again either homemakers or doing some home-based work. Now, Stratified sampling method was used for data collection, and the staff helped us in connecting with the potential respondents, and the purpose of the study was explained to them. Now, important part is the coding of the data, because here is some of how do you codify a qualitative data? So when we got a lot of these rich data through codes, so here on the right hand side you'll see a codes, then the gray area is the open code, that is the first stage, axial code, which is the second stage, which connects the codes, and the final is you identify a central category. So when you see the first code, we thought menstruation was the body removing dirty blood. Only after attending sessions did we learn that it is part of getting ready for childbirth. Now, the first thing to do, the first stage of coding in a qualitative data is you're talking about what it is. So here, when we analyze, when you interpret it, it is about knowledge. And where does knowledge fit into? Knowledge will fit into the agency. When we are talking about pads, where does it fit into? It fits into resources. When it comes to outcomes, where if they are questioning, if they are challenging, it is basically an outcome. So that comes in the achievement. I'm talking about the framework now. How does it fit into? So so here when you look at the open code, the first stage, so example could be insufficient quantity or access only in school. So that becomes your first stage. Your axial code is the connecting your first stage with the final core code. So example could be availability, accessibility, affordability, quality. So these are again the resources. If the wash infrastructure or menstrual material, this which falls into a resource category in the conceptual framework, we divide it into availability, accessibility, affordability as depending upon what the codes are. So we are giving certain direction to your data. So your methodology should have certain direction to your data. It's not just collecting data. And the final code is about the menstrual absorbent material. I'm going to show you this example of how we have used. You can see in this the core code, the axial code, and the open code. So if you here in the first is the core code, second is your axial code, third is your open code, then W29, W61 are basically the respondents. So there are 70. So this is just a snapshot that I'm giving you. And these are some of the illustrative codes. So every dimension, because we are again going to this slide of conceptual framework where we see resource, agency, and outcome. So every dimension here, we have divided into a resource. So using Kabir's framework, we have now started putting things into place. So we have putting wash infrastructure, again dividing that wash infrastructure into available or accessible depending upon what codes that. And these are again, there are many codes. I'm just giving you an example. So water is stored in a drum and all family members must manage with that much water only. I am putting that into a wash infrastructure, available or accessible. And toilets, when they are talking about toilets have been dirty or very few toilets, again, that comes under a resource dimension of wash infrastructure, that is infrastructure, and that comes under accessibility. Now, second is menstrual absorbent. It's again divided into availability depending upon what codes that we have reviewed. When I say codes, the data, that means availability, accessibility, affordability, and quality. As you saw that these were the axial codes. The resource dimension menstrual absorbent becomes the core code, and whatever codes, availability, these becomes your the middle, basically the axial codes, and the open codes will be not working, machine not working, and all. So these ways. So quality is the free pads given in schools are very small, so that will reflect under quality. If they are talking about whatever, my mother says if clothes work, why waste money on something new? Now that we have categorized into affordability. we used to get free pads in school, but not anywhere. So here that is about availability. So that it falls under the resource dimension of menstrual absorbent material. Agency dimension is about awareness, knowledge, and ability to decide. So the framework which we saw. So confronting fear and silence, we have categorized it under awareness. Knowledge is about learning, reframing, and questioning. So why can't we go to temples becomes a part of knowledge. And ability to decide, exercising autonomy and action. I go out confidently in the market to buy pads. That is will fall under the ability and exercising autonomy. The last is the achievement and outcome. So voices, choices, and spaces. This is the last in the findings part. It is about do not touch the bottle. I took the bottle and showed them nothing. So they are articulating resistance. That comes under achievement or outcome. Exercising autonomy or spaces. I please step out because I want to use the washroom. Telling that to your brother is about reclaiming privacy, about spaces. So that again falls under achievement. Institutional framework, the girls have talked about institutional programs, whether it was effective, whether it was not effective. People come from outside to talk about, but we do not understand much. So this part, this kind of codes, we have categorized them into institutional program. Social practices like I'm not allowed to fill water. So these social or cultural and religious practices, we have clubbed them as something which is influencing their access to resources. And finally, we have come up with a framework of the empowerment framework. So as I said first, we used a kernel theory of Naila Kabir's empowerment framework. But based on that empowerment framework, we have developed a conceptual model using the interpretive approach of analysis in the methodology part and a final outcome where it's about access, it's about agency, it is about empowerment, it is about supportive policies and guidelines. It is about societal and family supportive attitude. And this a framework or a structure which can now be used by future researchers. And this paper is under publication. So yeah. So this was what, and I want to end this session by saying that women empowerment, when we talk, let's start from within and around us. So this was my research paper, which how we have developed it and how we have utilized it uh, to develop a conceptual model. So thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm open to questions and yeah, if any. Actually, I know we don't have time and I'm also running for another meeting, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an insightful session on feminist research methodology, the nuances, the details, and the detailed understanding through the life projects that you had carried out. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to request the participants if they have any questions or queries or observation or feedback for today's session, please feel free to share it. We have limited time, so kindly share it as soon as possible. You can either unmute yourself or you can write the questions in the chat box, which will be addressed to the speaker for today.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I had a question that because I'm also trying to work with the hermeneutic lens, and you talked about how hermeneutics you have used in your work. However, if you could just explain, like, does hermeneutics also include like the encoding and the decoding? Like, what is the hermeneutic lens in terms of research? If I
See,
want
these
to.
are okay. When we say it's an interpretive approach, and this it here I'll have to make a clarification. It's Klein and Mayer's hermeneutic principles. So the hermeneutic principles, which especially the author Klein and Mayers has used. So that's why those seven principles. The hermeneutic principle is actually used for information systems, and it will be more from for a design frameworks. rather than all kind of researchers will not be using it. And here specifically it's Klein and Myers hermeneutic principles that have been used. And when you look at the interpretive analysis, you there was the entire process took a very long time. Actually, Sayanthani, it's we were doing to and fro's. We wanted to, because when there are too many principles that you are trying to bring in, yes, few of the and all the principles cannot be clubbed together in your research. So certain few things is contextualization, abstract and generalization. So here when we are talking about the principle of link specific insights from the case to your theoretical concept to bring out that broader. So this definitely the principle of abstraction and generalization was definitely used, because here we are trying to link something to your broader framework. Now, again, when we started the research, we did not go with the idea that we are going to use Naila Kabir's framework only. Let me be very clear about it. When we went to the field, it was about, okay, we'll have to look at different frameworks to understand, because you cannot go onto the field with saying, I'm going to use a particular framework, I'm going to use particular principles. You go with the definitely go with into the field with using the feminist lens of a research, where the feminist theory of a research, it's a guided theory. But when you go into the field, everything all the principles cannot be used. But definitely the principle of abstraction and generalization, this principle of hermeneutic was definitely used for interpreting it. Multiple interpretation, which is another hermeneutic principle, was used, because as I said, one sentence which people say, it can have various multiple iteration, multiple interpretations. So when a person is saying, I don't use, I use cloth. Now, the interpretation of I use cloth, if you are just doing a tick, I use cloth, in, it could be that, okay, this so many people are using. Why is that person using cloth? What is the reason for, how do you interpret this? You either have to ask that the person what is the reason, and the reasoning that was given was that it doesn't suit. So it was again an informed choice which was done by the participant. Now, how will I use, where will I club this sentence? This quote will now go into a agency, because here the person has the knowledge about other menstrual products that are available, and yet is exercising something which is comfortable to her. So the principle is the voice, this thing will go under the agent. So here when we are talking about building a conceptual model using certain principles, it is about looking at a broader picture and not just focusing on into what you are using. But we have to say that, even if to bring out certain themes, it was not an overnight, because we also sat with the Vacha team to reconfirm what are we doing, is it right. Now, why are girls missing school? Now this is a very, okay, they have periods and they have pain, and that's why they're missing school. But the backdrop of it is, what was the reasoning was that they did not have enough undergarments, something which, uh, again, the biases will come. Um, we never even looked at that angle, that there would not be enough. So, yeah, so when you don't look at the angle, and that insight was given to us by the Vacha team, that, some of the girls do not have the right or the sufficient number of undergarments. Now, the policy programs is again about providing a particular material, but whether that material is going to be used and what are the challenges of utilizing that material, observant material, is again something, a very complex reality. So the knowledge, or the when we talk as an academician, when we are thinking, there are complex realities, and you have to navigate with the kind of knowledge and with the kind of theories and the kind of principles that you're trying to use, and how do you fit in. It's a very tough situation, Sen, and wish you all the best for your research.
Any other queries? Anyone? Anyone else? You have any query to ask the speaker? Any observation for today's session? Your experience? Anything you would like to share related to today's session? Okay, I don't think so any more queries are there. So participants, the assignment link has been shared in the chat box. Kindly fill the assignment link by the end of today. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. It has been a very enlightening, enriching, and a very, very informative session rather on feminist research methodology. Something which everyone must know, because feminist research method is one of the most upcoming and one of the most important, I would say, arena of research, especially for those working on gender studies. Thank you very much, ma'am, for taking.
Yeah, I have just put my email ID in case later on if any one of the participants have certain questions, and if they are working on certain things and they have certain doubts. Maybe, right now in the session, you might not necessarily come up with the doubts or queries, but later on, once you're back home and you're doing your research, and then you suddenly have certain doubts, please feel free to write back to me. And I always believe that as a researcher, it's a continuous learning process. So I don't probably will not have all the answers, and I don't guarantee all the answers, but as together we can co-create a certain and be better researchers. I think that is what the aim should be, to be a better researcher. And thank you so much, Dr. Madhurima, for giving this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, ma'am, for taking out your valuable time and for such an informative and insightful and an important session for everyone. I also convey my sincere gratitude to our respected director, sir, without whose motivation and guidance, none of these sessions would have been possible. Thank you so much, sir. And thanks to all the participants for your patience and for your joining today. Thank you so much, ma'am. We look forward to future endeavors with you.
Yes,
thank you.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you, madam. Thanks a lot, madam.